All right, so in our Sentinel series, we've laid out the strategy and we've talked about the design, but now we get to the most critical part, actually doing it. Today, we are building the gold standard, a truly world-class, secure foundation on Google Cloud. This isn't theory anymore. This is the deployable blueprint. Okay, so you've got your strategy down, you've even sketched out your landing zone. But let's get real for a second. Are you truly enterprise ready? Because the gap between a plan on a whiteboard and a production-ready enterprise-grade system is absolutely huge. It's the difference between a simple demo and a digital fortress. So how do you actually cross that chasm? You know, for the longest time, the way to do things was ClickOps, just clicking around in a console. And look, at enterprise scale, that is just a recipe for disaster. It is so prone to human error, it creates these inconsistent environments that are impossible to manage, and it is painfully slow. The modern standard, the only way to operate securely at scale, is infrastructure as code, or IAC. By defining our entire environment in code, we make it repeatable, we make it auditable, and we make it incredibly fast. Okay, so how do we actually do infrastructure as code at an enterprise level? Well, that's where this comes in. Google's Enterprise Foundation Blueprint. I want you to think of this as the definitive, super opinionated guide, the absolute gold standard for building a secure and scalable cloud foundation right from day one. It's built for architects and security teams who need to hit the ground running. And I really want to be crystal clear about this. This blueprint, it's not just some theoretical white paper. It is a deployable, ready-to-go set of resources and configurations. It's a comprehensive baseline that basically turns all those best practices for governance, security, and scalability into actual code. This is the concrete starting point for any serious enterprise workload, especially something high-stakes like a TradingMaster AI system. And when you adopt this model, the benefits are immediate and, frankly, huge. You're getting consistent governance across the board. You get robust security controls that are baked in from the start, not just bolted on as an afterthought. You get true enterprise-level scalability. And you get centralized visibility into everything that's happening. These aren't just bullet points. They're the pillars of a world-class cloud operation. So to really get how this all works, you have to understand its core security philosophy, and that is defense in depth. Look, security in the cloud isn't about building one giant, impenetrable wall. Why? Because a smart, determined attacker will always find a way over a single wall. Instead, we create a multi-layered shield, where each layer offers a different kind of protection. For a system like TradingMaster, this is exactly what keeps your digital assets untouchable. So that outermost layer of our shield, it is all about prevention. We call these policy controls. Just think of them as these programmatic guardrails for your entire organization. They enforce what's allowed and what's not, and they proactively stop risky configurations before they can even happen. This tackles the root cause of most security breaches, right at the source. All right, moving one layer in, it's all about the structure. We're talking about architecture controls. These are baked right into the very design of your environment, how your resources are organized, and maybe most importantly, how your networks are designed. The blueprint enforces a private by default network, which dramatically shrinks your attack surface. And finally, we have the innermost layer. This layer operates under the assumption that, hey, despite our best efforts, a threat might just get through. These are your detective controls. This is your digital surveillance system, constantly scanning for weird or malicious behavior and screaming for help the second it finds something. And this isn't just abstract theory. We can map specific, powerful Google Cloud services directly to these layers. For policy controls, we're using the Organization Policy Service. For architecture controls, Shared VPC is the absolute cornerstone. And for detective controls, Security Command Center is our single pane of glass for threats. Each layer is powered by a real, powerful service. Okay, so we've got this incredible, multi-layered security model. But how in the world do you deploy and manage something like this reliably, especially across a huge organization? The answer, the engine that drives this whole thing, is GitOps and automation. It's about managing your infrastructure with the exact same rigor that you manage your most critical application code. And the most important point is right here, from Google's own docs. The entire foundation is defined using Terraform as code. This code lives in a Git repository, and every single change is managed through a version-controlled, auditable GitOps flow. This isn't just a feature, it's the absolute heartbeat of the entire system. So what does this pipeline actually look like? It's this beautifully simple, yet super powerful, 4-step process. First, an engineer commits their Terraform code to Git. Then, that change has to go through an automated review and approval process. No rogue changes here. Once it's approved, Cloud Build automatically kicks off and deploys it. The result? Perfect, consistent infrastructure every single time. If a whole region goes down, you don't panic. You just redeploy the blueprint. Beyond just the automation, one of the biggest values of this blueprint is that it's opinionated. And that's a good thing. It basically codifies years and years of expert wisdom from Google's own architects. It takes the hardest, most critical architectural decisions and just makes them for you by default. This is what allows a new project to operate with the security posture of a global bank right out of the gate. So let's look at a few of these big, hard decisions it makes for you. First up, identity. The blueprint mandates that you use your existing identity provider, like an Active Directory or Okta, as the single source of truth. You federate it with Cloud Identity, and boom, you've got consistent single sign-on, and you're using all the mature processes you already have. Next, let's talk networking. Instead of every team doing their own thing, which can get messy fast, it uses a shared VPC model. This gives you central control over all your networking policies and security, across every single project and region, all while enforcing that private by default stance we love. And what about visibility and compliance? Well, logging is totally non-negotiable. The foundation automatically sets up these aggregated log sinks. What that means is all of your critical security and audit logs from everywhere are funneled into one single, secure, unchangeable project. So when the auditors come calling, you know exactly where to look. And finally, what about the real keys to the kingdom? I'm talking API keys, database passwords, all that sensitive stuff. Well, it creates centralized projects just for Secret Manager. This gives you a secure, auditable vault for all of your application secrets, making sure they're never hard-coded and access is locked down tight. All right, let's pull the camera back for a second and look at the whole picture. This explainer, it's really the capstone, the final piece of our Sentinel series. We've gone all the way from high-level strategy down to a concrete deployable foundation. Your foundation is officially set. Just think about the journey we've been on. We started with the framework to figure out our strategy. Then we looked at archetypes to pick our models. We designed our landing zone to build out our structure. And today, with the Enterprise Foundation blueprint, we've automated the actual deployment of that whole thing. See how each piece just builds on the last? So here's the bottom line. A foundation that's built on these principles, that is a massive competitive advantage. It lets you innovate way faster, but with a security posture that would normally take a huge team years to build. So whether you're running complex AI inference or high-speed market executions, you've got the edge. You are truly enterprise ready. So the only question left for you is, what are you going to build?